Hey Chris. So the crappy superhero idea was a flop? Well, not entirely. I think I found a new home for it in one of my far from finished novels. But there really wasn't an effective way to turn it into a short story, and I think I know why. I've been out of writing practice for a while. When we were in college, I wrote quite a bit, focusing on a variety of mediums and doing some pretty regular work, but my practice has dropped off significantly since then. Sure, we did NaNoWriMo back in November, but since then I really haven't done much in the way of creative writing. I've been writing these videos and reading a bit, but I think that's kind of the writing equivalent of playing high school football and then 5 years after graduation going out for the Green Bay Packers, having only used walking as your keeping in shape. And I think part of what gets us stuck, or convinces us to make the decision to not do anything, is that we get stuck in a place between, I've already done this like a million years ago and should be above trivial stuff like this, and my writing should be as good as John Green's at this point, so why the hell can't I finish a story? Too proud to step backward, and not skilled enough to go forward. The trouble for me is that I keep trying to write all these things that I feel should be high literature, full of intriguing characters and unforeseeable plots. But getting to that level of writing takes practice, and that's something I haven't bothered to do in a long time, so it's back to the basics. A short story usually contains one scene or a series of several short scenes during which all four parts of a story play out. Number 1, introduction. That tells us which characters are involved in the story and some background information, just enough to make them believable, but not their entire background story. Number 2, the rising action. We get the basic parameters of the story. 3, the climax. That's where the really exciting stuff happens, and then we either have a turning point in the story or a revelation of some kind. And then, number 4, the falling action, which wraps up the story and gives the reader something to think about, if done properly. Another thing to keep in mind with short stories is that there are a limited amount of necessary characters to make the scene play out. I'm trying to keep those as few as possible because once you have a ton of characters, you have a ton more work to do. Word choice is way more important in short stories than it is in novels. Like in poetry, when writing a short story, you are trying to say a lot more with a lot less. You don't have a lot of time for character development, but it's still important to show, not tell, which was something I really hated in high school, but makes a lot of sense once you really think about it. But there's a bit more leniency here for the telling rather than the showing. For example, if I say, Scott Runner is an insufferable prick, you have to take my word for it. Although I will try to prove his prickishness to you, with things like, Scott kicked a puppy on the way out of the bar, or Scott called the front desk of the hotel to order a plate of fried baby hearts. When they were delivered, he refused to tip the busboy. If I were to write that Scott were a nice guy, and then use those scenes, I've created a lot of confusion for my reader. Consistency is key here. So keeping these ideas in mind, I wrote a series of short stories. My challenge for myself was to write 7 short stories in 7 days. And that's really, really hard. So what ended up happening was I ended up writing 5 short stories in about 8.5 days, which was a lot better than I thought I'd do initially. And I think I sent you the stories already. So if anyone who watches this cares to read those stories, I will put a link below for my Tumblr where I posted the stories. They're really rough drafts, but they're done. And that's what's really important here, is that I'm really trying to push myself to continue writing and to continue finishing. I'm going to be editing the below stories over time and probably putting up a few new short stories. Any comments on them would be appreciated. You're not going to hurt my feelings because I know they're crap. I'll be continuing with my journey for publication in a future video. I'll make sure to get that updated once I found a story that I think has a little more potential. Out of the 5 stories I wrote, there's 2 I think might be publishable with a little more fine-tuning, so I'll keep you updated. Anyway, until next time, I will see you later.